Welcome to the Native Plant Seed Collection, Cleaning, and Packaging Workshop. This is being recorded at the Public Library in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. This is a two-part series. This is teaching you what I've learned in the last 5 years about seed collecting, cleaning, and packaging. And part two is in December, where I'll teach you what to do with those native plant seeds that are collected, how to propagate them using the winter sow method in milk jugs. I'm a lifelong environmentalist, but the native plants is the new hobby of mine, and I'm passionate about it. It's really a pay it forward project. So what I'm teaching you today, I'm hoping that you will teach your family and friends and just keep it going. 5 years ago, I didn't know anything about native plants. What we're looking at here is little bluestem at Breakneck Hill in Southborough. Little bluestem is a native grass. It's a warm season grass which grows in the summertime as opposed to cool season grass that you would see in a lawn. Those grow in the spring and fall. Once you see these native plants, you can't unsee them. I just love this plant. That it's the backlit seed head of the grass is glowing. I see it all over down the highway and in fields. There are a couple slides today on plant identification. Then there are three parts to the presentation: seed collection with some examples, then seed cleaning, and finally packaging. It's best to identify the plant when it's blooming, because after when it's time to collect the seeds, a lot of times the leaves have faded and you lose the details. The plant apps get confused when they don't have the flowers or the leaves to use to help identifying. So it's best to identify the plant when it's in bloom. If it's in your garden, you probably know what the plant is, but if you're in a field or out in the wild, uh, make sure you know what the plant is if you plan to collect the seed from it. Because once it goes to seed, there's some variants. For example, the blue lobelia can be blue, white, or red if it's cardinal flower. And once it goes to seed, they all pretty much look the same. So if you're collecting to distribute, it's important to know what the plant is. And also when you're distributing, you'll want to use the botanical name because a lot of some plants have all plants have multiple common names and some of them overlap. So you could have the same common name for two different Latin names. I prefer to use picture this on my phone, but there are several different plant apps if you need that. A more advanced tool is called the dichotomous key. This is found on the Go Botany website, which is the Native Plant Trust's website. It's not an all-inclusive database for native plants, but they their database includes all plants that are in New England, whether they're native to New England, uh, naturalized in New England, or invasive plants. They want you to learn about that plant from their website so you know whether it's native or not. And the dichotomous key is a advanced tool that will help you identify what the plant is. For example, we have four uh, Joe Pies in New England. They're all native to here. And the dichotomous key will ask questions and a yes, no, like a decision tree, and will help you identify what that plant is. When we're collecting and cleaning, these are the supplies that you'll need: large and small paper grocery bags or lunch sacks, big plastic buckets, shaker, go big or go home. I like these big ones because I can process a lot at the same time. The smaller ones, you have to process uh, more touch points, really. Big and small pruners to cut those stems. This is a picture of the jewelry bag that you can use for the ballistic type seeds. Paper plates, but not paper plates with the plastic laminate on it. You want uh, this is a link, and the slides would be shared. This is a link for compostable plates, paper, and I'll tell you why that's important when we get to the other slides. Sieves or kitchen strainers, and this bottom one is a link for all this information that I'm sharing, the slides, the spreadsheets that I use, the recordings. When we're collecting outside of a planted garden, you want to collect ethically. No more than 10% from any one plant. That's the rule of thumb. Don't collect without permission. And it's actually illegal to collect from state listed plants like these four examples. This is a link to the mass.gov plants or anything that's endangered or threatened or special concern, plants, reptiles, anything that's protected, it's on this list. We're concerned about plants today, and this link should take you straight. Actually, they have a new, they redid their spreadsheet, their website. So when you go there now, this link I think will take you there, but it's organized a bit differently. So just select plants in the drop-down menu, and you can review them. You you likely won't find any of the rare plants when you're walking in nature, especially if you're a beginner. So, but if you did, you're not allowed to collect from them. And if you did collect from them, it's illegal to distribute seeds. But you can buy these plants from Garden in the Woods or some other nurseries, and that's how. And then we distribute those. So those are collected legally, and we're distributing seeds from those that were collected legally. This is a picture of New England blazing star, and you can see that to collect from here, I'm too late for these top ones. The middle ones are ready to collect, and the bottom ones are not ready yet. This plant flowers from the top down, and it goes to seed from the top down. You need to be patient. I I could I could grab these seeds and pull them out, but they're likely still green on the seeds are still green and not viable yet, or not as viable yet. But when these windblown fluffy ones look like dandelions, that's when they're gonna be ready, and those will shake right off, or I could pick it right off of that plant. The seed head will dry up and turn brown. Another indication is when they're dropping on their own, like these top ones. And you can also do what's called a hand rub. If you're not sure if it's ready to collect, grab grab one like this, rub it in your hand and see what the seed looks like. If it's still moist and green, it's not ready. If it looks like this, or you just shake it and the seeds are coming out of that calyx, it's ready. What you're learning today, it's all transferable. I'm showing pictures of native plants to New England, but it's also applies to non-native plants or herbs in your herb garden if you want to collect from those and grow those again. You want to collect from different plants if you can, just to get better genetic diversity. One of those plants you're collecting from may be more drought tolerant than the other one, or blight tolerant. And important, when you're collecting, have a marker and write on the paper bag what that plant was that you collected from. There are four collection methods that you'll learn about today. The top one, which would be the fifth one, is not a method. It's to do nothing. Let that plant drop the seeds on its own. Let those birds distribute those seeds. That's called self-sow. Or if you have the seeds and you put them in the garden yourself, that's called direct sow method. That's not what we're teaching here. We're collecting seeds to sow later, and the four methods that you'll learn about, fist swipe, deadhead, field clean, and mesh bag, are my favorite ways to do it. Fist swipe means you're grabbing the stem and you're swiping up with your fist, and now you've got a fistful of seeds and chaff. Deadhead means you cut the stem below the seed head, and then you're going to take that back to your house, let that dry, and then clean those seeds later. Field clean means you're collecting and cleaning in the field, at least first step one of the cleaning. You're going to shake that seed head in a paper bag or a bucket, and the seeds are going to come right off, and you'll see examples of that later. Mesh bag means you're collecting from a ballistic seed type plant where the seeds are going to fly away from the plant, but you're going to put a mesh bag on it. So when that happens, the seeds are contained in that mesh bag. Field clean is the most fun and quickest method. This is a picture of calico aster. It's a medium-sized bag. I'm usually using the larger bag so it doesn't tear like this picture. But I'm tipping the aster or goldenrod into the bag, and I'm using my hand to gently shake the plant. The seeds that are ready are falling off into the bag, and the seeds that are not ready are staying on the plant, so I can either come back later or let those be the seeds that self-sow or feed the birds all winter. Grasses can be collected like that too. Some plants have a rigid stem that if you try to bend it over, they'll snap. So those ones you'll want to cut the stem, and then you can shake in your bag or bucket to get the seeds out. There's another example of milkweed later that you'll see, but that's definitely a field clean. That's not one that you want to collect or clean in your garage when it's fluffy. Cardinal flower, really it's a fist swipe, but I included it on this slide because you can cut that stem and shake it in your bag, and you'll get so many dust-like seeds that come out of the top of the seed head, which is opened up, that you don't need to collect that one, clean that one later. Uh, you're not going to get all the seeds out of there, but you don't need to because you are going to get plenty from the lobelias, just field cleaning in a bag. This is a great way to collect the seeds of a lot of the plants. When this is bee balm, wild bergamot, I'm deadheading the stem, holding it like a bouquet, invert it into the bucket, and then I'm whacking it back and forth. The seeds are going to rattle out of the calyx when they're ready, and uh, like the last slide, you're going to get so many seeds out of here that you don't need to clean it further, and you don't need to get all the seeds out of there. You're not you're going to get most of the seeds out, but you'll have so many seeds that it's just a really quick method just to whack it against the bucket. And then step two would be to use sieves or paper plates to separate the seed from other shafts and debris that you're collecting in the bucket. Sometimes I'll spread the seed out to dry just to so the seed doesn't get moldy. Most of the time I'm leaving the paper bag open in the garage, and that's enough to dry the seed out. The chaff has inherent moisture that needs to dry. Uh, and if you have too much in the bag, that moisture is not going to distribute, and that can create mold. Like this bee balm in the left accidentally left the lid on that one, and it got got moldy. In this picture on the left, uh, before I knew better, I was using plastic bags. Don't do that. I'm always using paper because the moisture can permeate through the wall of that paper bag. This left one, that was before I understood how to collect obedient plant, and those are not ready. Uh, Obedient plant, when it's ready, you'll see, and it's typical of all these, when that seed head opens up and you can see the seed down there and it's falling out, that's when it's ready. This one, it's too soon and you can't even see any of the seeds, so it needed a couple more weeks to be in there. I keep organized using these rolling racks in my garage, and I don't fold the top of the bag open or closed just so that moisture can come out. I try to co-locate, so when I'm collecting that one again, like the fluffy example, I collected that calico aster, and I'm going to come back and collect more of that calico aster. I'll try to grab that same bag that next week and add to it. And this is it takes a lot of room to save this uh, these plants like that, or the seed heads like this, and it's a lot easier to store clean bulk seed like this next slide. So I'm going from that one big bag to, well, they're out of order, I'm sorry. um, you'll see a slide later where a big bag like that's just going to condense into a real small envelope, and I put that in the garage. So I try not to procrastinate the seed cleaning step just for the sake of it's less risky of dumping a bag over and losing your seed if once you collect it. This is the deep dive. I'm going to go through it kind of quickly because there are a lot of slides, but it will get intuitive after a while. You don't need to take notes on how to do this. Hopefully, what you get out of this workshop, you will be able to go in the field and just remember uh, the best method, and it gets intuitive after a while. Here are three examples of ballistic seed types, which means when that is ready to distribute the seed, when they're ripe and ready to harvest, the plant will throw those seeds as far as they can. Common violet is this left one. You may not have ever seen the seed head of common violet because it's down below the leaves. But if you spread those leaves and look at the base of the plant, you'll see a lobe that uh, where the seeds are. And when that lobe dries up, the moisture is no longer going up the stem to that seed head. It dehydrates and then splits open into three sections, and it's full of seed. A couple of days later, that shaft will dehydrate a bit more and it will squeeze, and eventually it squeezes to the point where it's launching all those probably 100 seeds as far away as it can, which is, probably 18 or 24 inches. Um, and then it's too late to collect. This is jewelweed, which is an annual. I've drawn in Photoshop so you can see the valves a bit better. When that dries up and dehydrates and is ready to distribute, the bottom part of that seed head will flip in and up, and that launches all those seeds uh, as far away as it can. You touch that with your finger when it's ready, and that's enough to cause that potential energy to explode. This is a wild geranium, same thing. Uh, you can see I believe there's one seed in each of these pods, and when that's ready to distribute, all that potential energy will just spring out like that. All three of these are examples of, well, maybe not the common violet because that's would be kind of tough to put a bag on there, but these other two, you can put a bag around those so you don't need to monitor daily. Just go back once a week and collect your seed. And when you put jewelry bags over it, you want to go for the bigger jewelry bags because you can get several seed heads in there in each bag. And you don't need to tie, there's a drawstring, just pull it pull it closed, but you don't need to tie it. The seeds will usually stay in that bag. Coneflower, all coneflowers, purple coneflower, black-eyed Susan, probably other coneflowers are the same collection method. When you collect it when it looks like this top picture, this is actually the structural member. You can see it better when the one I tore apart down here. The structural member attaches to the cone base, which is why it's called cone flower. And there are two other parts to this flower head. Shaft, which is this plug, and then that's the seed. When before the plant looks like this, what you're looking at is actually the shaft, and that's not the seed. The shaft plug will, when it dries up, which is all this debris in this top picture, when that dries up and falls out, that exposes the seed, which is below that. I call it a plug because it keeps a plug in there that keeps that seed from coming out too soon. When when it looks like that, that's when it's time to collect. That's the seed. The plug's out. Now that seed can wiggle out, whether it's from the expansion contraction from the night versus the day. Day it expands at night. The flower head will contract. That might be enough to wiggle it out, a bird landing on it. But when that shaft is out, it's time to collect. And if you remember that bucket method that from a couple slides ago, I grab a bunch of the stems, cut them. I'm holding it like a bouquet, turn it upside down in the bucket, and I'm shaking it. You're going to get a lot of those seeds, not all of them, and a lot of this chaff and debris that you can further clean later using that the sieves or paper plate method. And you don't need to obsess about getting all the seeds. You're going to get plenty. And that's by far the best way to collect seed of the coneflower. The hard seed pod types, for example, the foxglove beard tongue or the shorter one, the northeast beard tongue, that's ready to collect when the pod opens up. These are not ready yet because the top hasn't split open. When you can see the seeds, tip it upside down, the seeds are coming out. That's when to collect that one. And you can get enough of that by field cleaning it to save you a step later, or you can collect them, let them dry a bit more, and then use the shaker to get the seeds out. But this one, there's so many seeds, I just collect it in the field to save a step later. Hitchhikers are the ones that will stick to you or stick to a wild animal that walks past it, and then from that wild animal, it will drop somewhere else in wild. That's how those distribute. They're not wind distributed, they're animal distributed. You know when they're ready to collect when you walk past it and it's sticking to the sleeve, your shirt sleeve. It it's a fist swipe collection method. And once I collect this one, the showy tick trefoil, I'm deadheading the rest because every time I go in the garden, I'm gonna forget about it and it's gonna stick to my pant leg. Definitely a field clean, and you don't need to clean this one any further. That's the seed. Mint species are bee balms, wood mints, uh, hyssop. This top one is the flower. The petals will dry up and drop off, and then what's left is the calyx, and the seed is at the very bottom of the calyx. When that seed's developing, it's connected to the base of that plant. When it's ready to collect, it's no longer connected with basically an umbilical cord to the plant and it's ready to come out. Also for this one, before it's ready, there's some fibrous members that cover the whole of the calyx, and those will dehydrate, dry up, and then phase away, and that exposes the seed. And now, and it's ready for a bird to land on it, uh, wiggle them out, or a bird can maybe access the seed by when the seed shakes up to the top, it might see that seed there and be able to eat it. But that's when it's time to collect. This is another field clean where you can cut the stems, hold it like a bouquet, and shake it into your bucket. Or you can collect them and clean them later in using the shaker method. But I bucket's my friend when I'm collecting seed. I'm using it a lot to save a step later. It's also I can don't need as big of a bag to store it until it's time to clean and package. This is another the same thing as the previous slide, but it's an example of bee balm. The Grow It Build It YouTuber, uh, he says that it's hard to collect from the scarlet bee balm because of the seed to calyx ratio. You can see the bottom. The picture before was this picture. That's the seed is almost the same, is a little bit smaller than the calyx, so it takes a long time for that to wiggle out. You can collect bee balm for a long time because the seeds will stay in there a while. He says that for scarlet bee balm, the calyx is bigger, which you can see, the diameter of the calyx. And he said that the seed is so small that it wiggles out, and you don't, your collection window is very small because the seeds are going to fall out. I'm skeptical of that. I've tried to collect from that one for years, and I don't know if all mine are cultivars or uh, if this is just not accurate, because I have seen normal sized seeds like this in my bee balm, scarlet bee balm, but I'm thinking that it's not straight species, and maybe I have a cultivar. Cultivars tend not to, when they make seeds, they revert back to the plant that was originally modified, which would be probably the bee balm. Then they, I don't know, modified it to be red. I'm not sure, but anyway, I've direct sowed these little things. I have seen the little bitty things, but I think it might be debris or dead bugs. Uh, this is a mystery to me. My friend said she's got this rate species, gave me a whole bunch of seeds. I planted several trays and a bunch of milk jugs last year. Didn't get any plants from it. So, yeah, this scarlet bee balm, I'm still not sure I've got my hands on the straight species plant, but it seems like every year a new person's coming to me saying they've got it and sharing plants with me. So I've got the scarlet bee balm several places, and I'm collecting and taking careful notes from it, just trying to get it to reproduce. So so far I haven't had any luck. So if you know anyone, let me know. Pea pods are wild lupin, partridge pea. This is partridge pea. And you can see on this left picture that how it made that helix shape. So when it's dry and ready, it's gonna twist. So it has a little potential energy, and that throws it away. Uh, the mesh bag is the good way to collect from this one, or visit it often. When you shake this one, you can hear the seeds rattling around. It means they're no longer connected to the plant, and they're just waiting for it to dry up, half of that to split, like these ones, and get thrown away. So these ones are ready to collect. These ones have already half of half of that chaff is gone. Seeds have already dropped. So this one you can mesh bag it, or or just visit it often, and then uh, rattle it. And if you can hear the seeds rattling, it's ready. Another one that is like that is the yellow Baptisia, the native Baptisia, not the blue one, which is a near native yellow wild Baptisia. You can hear the seeds rattling in there. This is buttonbush. It likes wet soil. I collect from this one at a place in Northborough where I found it in the wild. The flower is a sphere, round, and then that's the flower head, same shape. And when it's ready, you can touch that seed head and they will crumble off into these little wedges, and that's the seed. Don't even need to further clean it. That's the seed right there. Blue flag iris. This is our one of our native irises. We also have dwarf crested iris. I've never actually collected seed from that one, even though I have it. Need to study that one a bit more. But blue flag iris is our native equivalent to the bearded iris that most people have. That's ready to collect when the pod opens up and you can see the seed. And it's easy to clean that one. You just crush it and the seeds are obvious. Several plants have disc-like seeds, meaning they're flat like a disc. This is turtle head, closed gentian is the same. This is when the flower is in bloom, and when it's ready to collect, this turns brown, dries up, turns brown, and splits open, and it exposes those seeds so it can distribute. That's when to collect that one. And you can deadhead it, uh, shake it. You'll probably get plenty. You can hand rub it, fist rub it to get more, or let it dry out, and then you can use a shaker method. Soft seed pods as opposed to the beard tongue hard seed pods. These are soft seed pods, meaning you could squeeze it with your finger. Uh, uh, that's why I classify it as soft. You can fist swipe this one and then use a shaker later, or when it's ready to collect, the top of it, you can see these holes here. If you look closely in the seed head, that exposes those seeds to come out. And you can deadhead that one and shake it in your bucket or bag, and you're going to get plenty of dust-like seeds. They're real small, like dust. There's really no need to collect this one to take this one home and clean it later because you don't need that many seeds. You're going to get thousands from each seed stem. Here's an example of the dust-like thousands of seeds from each seed head. You need to be careful with that fist swipe method. This plant has shallow roots. This is Allegheny monkey flower, and I did this fist swipe and I uprooted it. So the seeds are heading toward the plants are almost dormant by this time of year. The roots are probably maybe compromised, not held in there very well. So a shallow root plant, you should probably hold it down with one hand and fist swipe with the other. And then with your third hand, hold the bag. That's just a joke. I wish I had three hands or a helper, but it's longer to uh, to do one of these because you've got to hold that plant down and then pick up your bag and put your seeds in it. A deep-rooted plant like a grass, like little blue stem, you don't need to hold down. So you can have the bag with one hand and then your fist swipe with the other. The umbrella shaped ones, this is Zizia, Golden Alexander, Meadow Zizia, also from your herb garden, fennel, same shape. You want to do a fist swipe. Just pull it up. These seeds are ready. Before that, they're green. When they look like this and they're starting to drop on their own, see about 1/3 of these have already dropped. That's when it's time to collect from that one. And the one adjacent to it over here might be not ready. So it's easy to tell which ones are ready. Just come back for the other ones, or just let the other ones be the ones that are self-sowing or feeding the birds. And you want to do this field clean because if you cut that stem and put it in your bag, when you go to clean it a couple weeks later, these are the seeds will fly everywhere and then you'll lose some. in your garage or your kitchen. So do this field clean, and then you don't even clean it later because that's the seed. That's not the shaft with a small seed inside. That's the seed. But if you're confused and don't know or come across another one, just dissect one, sacrifice one, break it open with your fingernail, and if you see something smaller inside of it, then that's the seed, and the outside is the shaft. But this one, I've actually never dissected one of these. Not sure what it would look like in the middle, but there's not a smaller thing inside that one because that is the seed. Wind dispersed means it's the seed is on the end of a fluffy thing, like this showy goldenrod. Each one of these fluffy things, there's a seed down there. There are probably 1,000 seeds in this part of the plant. Each one of those, when a bird lands on it or a strong wind, will fly away. Calico asters are like that. Blazing star, anything fluffy, even dandelion, which is non-native, same thing. There's fluffy part, and then the seed is at the bottom where it's touching the plant. I like to do field clean of these ones right in my bag. I'm shaking it. The loose stuff is coming off. The stuff that's not coming off is not viable yet, and I'm leaving those. I'm coming back later for it. Uh, when I'm collecting, I'm also cleaning up the garden too because I I'm maintaining a lot of gardens and some plants I don't want to spread. For example, if I have in Northborough, Watson Park, I've got a pollination garden section and then a meadow section. The meadow section are short plants. They're also in the pollination garden, but the tall plants in the pollination garden are not in the meadow because the meadow, I don't want tall, floppy plants there. I want everything about 3 feet or shorter. So when I'm collecting seed in the pollination garden, for example, showy goldenrod, I collect what's ready and then I'm deadheading the rest because I don't want those spreading to the meadow and I don't want them spreading to the other side of the pollination garden where it doesn't belong because the pollination garden is more formal. They have a special place there. And if they do spread, which in the wild it's a good thing, but in my pollination garden it means more maintenance for me. So I'm seed collecting and then I'm also deadheading and getting that out of there if I don't need to collect anymore. Another slide on wind dispersed seeds. This is little blue stem that you saw in that intro, ready to collect when it's looking like that. A couple months later, the seeds have blown away and same plant looks like that in December. Big blue stem, it doesn't look the same as the little blue stem, doesn't get fluffy, but when you do a fist swipe and they're coming off easily, those are ready to collect. That's about the seed density for the part two winter sow workshop that we're going for big blue stem and little blue stem. Has a It makes a lot of seed and it's kind of a low viability, so you need a lot of seeds when you're uh, sowing that one. This is a tumbleweed when dispersed. It's purple love grass. When that's ready to collect, the seed head turns light brown and breaks off and then blows around in the wind like a tumbleweed and it's dropping the seed heads the whole time. This is one that you're going to want to do a hand rub. Grab a seed head in your palm of your hand, rub it apart to get that shaft broken off and see if there's seed in there. Like that's the seed, that's the shaft. I learned that one the hard way because I winter sowed a bunch of chaff because the seed had already come out and I didn't know what was the seed and what was chaff. So I sowed chaff that first year. This left picture, it's on the side of a road, a hell strip, and it's kind of neat how it's stratified like this. Hell strip means it's a tough part of the it's a tough part to grow native or any plants because of the salt that we get up here in the north when it snows. And I noticed that Right next to the road was a good spot for Dallas grass, which I think is a non-native grass, but I love that really super salty right next to the road. And then this 12 inches was a great spot that the purple love grass enjoyed. And then behind that, the was a good spot for all the way up and down the road for poison ivy, and then the invasive honeysuckle. But the purple love grass, it's a short one, short native plant, and late summer it turns purple at the top, the seed head, and then that fades away, and then the seed head looks like that, which you see everywhere because it blows everywhere. When you're collecting from the milkweed, you want you'll want to hold that plant and pick that pod up gently, because if there's another seed head on there, you'll shake that plant, and then that would be enough to make any seeds ready just to fly off, like what happened here, and they all landed on the ground. You can see the fluffy part and the seed head part. I have another picture of how to clean that one a bit later. You can use twisty ties if you want, but what I prefer on the milkweed is to visit often. I'm not going to collect them all. Some I'll miss because when they're ready to go, they don't stay there long, and they'll dry up and go friable and go. Then I don't collect. I just let those ones be the ones that are going to self-sow in the area. But when I see it dehydrate and it crack open a little bit, or all the way down this seam will open up, I know that the next day that's going to uh, probably not be there. So when I see even this very top part open slightly, I'm collecting it because it's had enough time attached to that plant that it's going to be viable. This is this is rose milkweed, and this one apparently tends to be more patient because see how many of these have split open and were just there waiting for me to collect, or waiting for a bird to come and eat them patiently. So they were probably there several days. So here's an example. You want to hold the plant when you pluck this off, because if I just grab that stem is going to shake, and these ones could fly off if I pull hard and snap that off. And there's an obvious side to hold this. I can't tell you which side is the obvious one. It's either with your thumb, that side or that side. But there is one obvious side. It's a side, I think it's probably this side, where each one of these seeds are attached way down here to the plant with the fluffy thing. And you're gonna hold your thumb and then just rake the seed head off into your bag with your with your other hand. The butterfly weed, same thing, but I think that one you don't have as much time, because I don't ever see butterfly weed looking like this. It cracks open and then the next day it's just gone, or it's attached to it but already fluffy, and then ready to distribute. This is the picture I was trying to show you earlier. It's much easier to store clean bulk seed, and I even put it in my refrigerator because it doesn't take up much space. But cleaning is the method of separating the chaff and the seed head from the seed. You can see how much debris is just from this one seed head. And cleaning, the important thing of cleaning is you're yielding clean bulk seed, and it's your discretion how clean to make it. If you're doing this on your own and you're just going to put them in your milk jug, or you're going to direct sow them into your garden, you don't need to get clean bulk seed. Direct sow, I'll just put a plug in for that next winter sow workshop. Direct sow does work in the garden. You get less germination, so you need a lot more seeds. In the milk jug, you get better germination, and you need fewer seeds. And the the packaging part is a way to normalize uh, how many seeds go in the envelopes. And having clean bulk seed means you're getting consistency. Each scoop has the same number of seeds in there. Whereas if you had 50% debris, that scoop size isn't going to have that same number of seeds in there. You're going to have 50% shaft, 50% seed, for example. So I'm going for clean bulk seed because I'm distributing these in workshops. This is the other plant where one year I sowed all the chaff and didn't get any germination because the seed had already dropped out. And it's tricky because you can see that one, the seed's probably in there. This one, it had a little opening and the seed had come out. So if you're collecting this and you do a hand rub, they all look like that. You do a hand rub and you don't see any seeds, you're too late to collect from it. So this one you want to clean by hand rub because if you put that in a shaker, uh, you're not the seed will likely stay in that shaft. So you need to hand rub that one. Grab a handful and rub it in your hand, and that's the way to get that seed out. Then you'll put it in a sieve or paper plate to separate the shaft from the seed. So you'll do that a lot. You need to hand rub several different of these species to get that seed out. You could probably, in nature, you could that will eventually wiggle out or dry up and come and fall out, or an animal will step on it and break it out. But I worry that if you don't get that seed head out and you put that right in your milk jug, it's a bit passive and it may stay in there the whole time and probably won't germinate because to get that to germinate, you need the good seed to soil contact, uh, because that soil will be wet and you need mass transfer of the water into that seed. And that allows the protein in there called the germination inhibitor to break down, which needs cold, wet, and time to break down the enzyme in that seed head. It's an inhibitor that won't let it germinate unless it's broken down. I'll talk about that in the winter sow workshop. So you need the exposed seed when you sow it in your milk jug. Here's a case study on purple lovegrass. It's a hand rub, and it's not a lot of fun, and it's time consuming to clean the purple lovegrass seed. I do it in a bucket, one handful at a time. You remember the tumbleweed shape? I'm grabbing a handful of those and I'm rubbing it inside that bucket. Seeds are coming up, flying out everywhere. So I'm sweeping those up from my garage floor after. And my hand looks like that for some reason. Some part of that seed head uh, is dirty, for lack of a better word. I'm using the paper plate method because I use a sieve too, but the shaft and the seed are the same size. So you can't just use the sieves. You have to use paper plate. You're having the paper plates on a diagonal and you're shaking that paper plate back and forth quickly. And for this one, actually the shaft will float up to the top. The seed is heavier and will drop to the bottom. And then you use your thumb to skive off the top layer to the compost pile. Shake it again, and you're skiving off that top shaft again. And you keep doing that until you get it clean enough. And here's at the end how much seed I got and how much debris. It's 50-50. It looks like more debris, but it really is 50-50. That's a lot of seed right there. That bucket full took 35 minutes. For the shaker method, I like the bigger shakers. This big coffee thing is a great size. This is a bit smaller. Um, Works too. Most of the time, I'm putting that seed head, shaking it vigorously, and then that gets dumped into the sieve for further processing, or paper plate if you don't have a sieve or strainer. You can use bolts to collect a bit more, you're going to get about 5% more seed. It's really not worth it because you're going to collect so many just from that initial pass. But if you do use the bolts, if you're dumping it into your sieves, you need to get the bolts out first. Otherwise, you can dent, damage, break the mesh of the sieve. And you're also making a lot more debris. So you'll likely need a dust mask or a shop vac nearby when you take that lid off. Because it's not fun to inhale that debris dust. These are lab grade sieves, and you can see some examples here on the table. Uh, it, these are high quality stainless steel. If you don't have access to sieves, you can use kitchen strainers, which you can, if you don't have one, you can go to the secondhand store and get them cheap. This kitchen strainers are this size, and I refer to it as the window screen, same size. It's the one you need the most. Bigger ones help to get the seed head and debris off, but that's the one that you're going to either the dust like is going to go to the bottom of that, or the other seeds are collecting in the top of that. Most of the seeds, that's the most valuable size there, the window screen. You can make your own too using window screen. And most of the time, you're also using the paper plate method to further clean. It's not intuitive how to use the sieves, but what you're doing is putting the seeds in there and then shaking back and forth to let the small stuff go to the drop to the bottom. The bigger stuff stays at the top. When I say non-intuitive, I say that from experience because I often see people pushing the seeds down with their finger. uh, Seeds are all not the same size, so you're going to get some hung up at the top and some will drop down. That's okay. You don't need to poke down the rest of the seeds because you think it belongs in the one below. You're going to damage the sieve when you do it like that. So just know that the top, some are not going to drop down. You can either hand rub to get the rest of the debris off, then it might drop down, or just compost the top if you don't want to further clean. Here's a secondhand store mesh. It's perfect for these. The dust likers are going to go to the bottom, and some seeds are going to stay in the top. So just see what you got and just use what you have. It gets intuitive after a while, so you don't need to take careful notes. Uh, guess how many seeds are on this paper plate? I would guess 15 seeds, but if you count them, it's actually 36. Just pretty amazing. You don't need a lot of seeds. So when we're packaging, it may not look like a lot of seeds, but just trust the measurements. I have a spreadsheet that I'm sharing too, where it tells what scoop size uh, to use in each envelope and how many seeds you need to get 20 to 40 seedlings. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But paper plate method is you're putting it on the paper plate, putting it on an angle, and then shaking it back and forth. Usually the debris is hanging up at the top and the seeds are coming to the bottom, and then you repeat because it takes several passes across this to get that clean bulk seed. Sometimes the seeds staying at the top and the shafts coming to the bottom. So just do it and visually see which is the seed and which is the shaft, and you just pass it between different plates back and forth many times, and then eventually you'll get the clean bulk seed that you're going for. You don't want to use paper plates with the laminate. You want that paper plate to become friable with the fibers coming out because that actually helps with the efficiency. When I have a new paper plate, I rub it with sandpaper to get that friable fibers started. And then the longer you use it, the more fibers come up and it's more efficient. And that's your friend. And when I'm going to workshops, I'm leaving my favorite paper plates at home because I don't want to lose them. Uh, uh, okay. For this is the last part of the workshop. It's packaging. These are the supplies if you're going to be packaging, or if you show up at a workshop, they already have these supplies. Uh, but if you want to make mailing envelopes, here's a link. The wax paper envelopes are needed for the dust-like seeds, otherwise they're going to wiggle out the top corners of the seed envelopes, which are that link. These are several kinds of measuring spoons. You'll see scoops, you'll see pictures later, and then that's the storage container that I use, but you can use a cardboard box or whatever. You'll see a picture of that one later. I get it from the Michael's Craft Supply Store. It's used for storing pictures, is the main use for it, or crafting. It's not intuitive to the beginner how many seeds to put in the milk jug. Here's an example, steeplebush. It's way too many seed plants germinated. It's too many seedlings. There's too much root competition. Each plant needs some space for roots. And if the roots can't go down and expand, it's going to stay small. It's probably a bad example here because I know that the two native spireas, white meadowsweet and steeplebush, they do stay small the first year, but that's way too many. We're going for 20 to 40 seedlings in the milk jug. Fewer than 20, it's a waste of time. More than 40, it's too much root competition. And that's, you can either leave it and crush your fingers if you have too many that'll work, or you have to repot it, which is no fun. Repotting means I'm separating that into individual pots, trays, or several milk jugs, which is time consuming. So just get your seed uh, count right at the beginning to save all that time. When we transfer this from the milk jug, and this is part of the winter sow workshop, it's called hunk of seed method, where you pull that out as one plug, and you're grabbing uh, a group of that 4 or 5 plants, and you're putting that in the ground. Then you grab your next hunk, tear it apart, and you put that 12 inches away. It's called hunk of seed method. And that's how we transplant these into the garden. For the dust-like seeds, it has typically lower viability. So if a plant seed head has 1,000 seeds, you might only get 10% viability out of there. So you need more seeds in the milk jug. A plant that's making just 7 or 8 seeds, you're going to have higher viability, and that's how the plants are going to survive in nature. So I've studied in the last four years or so, what's the viability of each species, and I've recorded on the spreadsheet how many seeds of that to put in the milk jug to get 20 to 40 seedlings. When we're packaging these, the spreadsheet has seed count for 2 envelopes, and we do that one because it saves time. It's the same amount of packaging time to package for 1 milk jug as it is for 2 milk jugs. So it reduced cost and saves packaging time, but it also means we're getting more plants out there because that envelope is split to 2 milk jugs. Now we're getting 80 plants instead of 40 plants. And here's the great thing. It's since you have 2 milk jugs, there's an opportunity to donate one of those milk jugs to a town beautification project. Here's Watson Park. This was a few years ago, must be that first year of the garden. And these were all community grown from winter sow. They grew 2 milk jugs. The community kept one for their garden, and they donated one back. So all these are the donation jugs from the garden. And I do that every year. This year in Northborough, the donation jugs went to town beautification health strips in the middle of town, different places in town, right on the road. for town beautification. So, and for the Shrewsbury one, same thing. The donation jugs last year went to Prospect Park Garden. There's a new native plant garden at Prospect Park. The donation jugs next year will go to Lake Street Park for a native plant garden that are being installed there. 2020 was the first time I winter sowed, so I got the plants in 2021. Then from because of the mistakes I made then with sowing chaff or over sowing seeds, I've been on a mission ever since to figure out how many seeds go in the milk jug. So I did first best guess, and then I counted how many germinated, and then the next year I adjusted more, fewer seeds, or if I got 20 to 40, then I didn't change anything. So I've been adjusting the numbers up and down ever since. So I have a pretty good database now of and pretty high confidence to yield 20 to 40 for all the plants that I've personally sowed. The dust-like seeds, you don't need very many. These are micro scoops, and the spreadsheet will tell you which scoop to use for each one. So if you show up at a workshop, we've got the spreadsheet printed and all these tools. When we measure with the scoops, it's reproducible and it's fast. If you see instructions about a short scoop or a heaping scoop, just like in your kitchen when you're cooking, heaping means it's a little more, short means it's a little less than level. And for the fluffy ones, you're using the bigger size, a tablespoon of the fluffy, a half cup of the fluffy, and we're not removing the seed from it because it just takes too much time and it's not necessary. So you're getting a scoop of it, and you'll see instructions about gently pack. Yes, I could use my thumb and really pack it down and get more in there, but for the fast and reproducible, gently pack means you're pushing it down with your hand. You're not packing it down with your thumb. And the seed, you don't need to lick these envelopes. You're using that label to keep the envelope closed. The dust-like seeds that are prone to come out the corners are also they're double packed. They're double packed. They're in a wax envelope. They're not coming out, and the fluffy seeds are too big to come out. So you just hold that closed with the label. This is how I keep mine organized in these photo containers. And I put a label on the top here so I know what's in there. And then I'm storing them in my basement or my garage. It's good storage technique. When it's clean bulk seed, it's in the refrigerator, and then from then on, it's in the garage. It's just to help with viability. You can have poor storage technique and have these in a high humid, hot environment, and they're going to be fine. You might lose some viability, but you're fine. And the seeds will be viable for several years too if you don't get to them all. You don't need to use rice or desiccant bag to keep them from going moldy when they're in this phase. There's inherent moisture in the seed, and we don't want to mess with that. In nature, you don't have desiccant bags or rice around them, and they're fine. So you don't need to do anything special. Just because when you're at this point, the moisture that wants to evaporate out is fine. What's left in the seed is okay. This is a slide on printing labels. If you want to print labels, if you come to a workshop, they're already printed. The in my shared folder here, you can have access to all the label files. You can download it and print it at home using that shape label. It's 30 per sheet. You're printing 30 labels per sheet. This is a screenshot of the spreadsheet that's shared with the details of the plant and how many seeds are in there. 40 times 2 means there are 80 seeds in that envelope. You're putting 40 in each milk jug. instructions on how to add a picture to your label. And this is the last slide. This is the link to the Go Botany website. That's a link to the Dr. Jagir plant list if you want to follow his plant list, which is how I got started. It was overwhelming. That was a subset of native plants for the at-risk bees, also native butterflies and other bees. For a good, if you follow this plant list, you're not just growing for the at-risk bees, it's the whole ecosystem in your in your garden. So it's for the butterflies, like monarchs and other ones. So it's a short, uh, research-based plant list, which is how I got started. These are local seed companies. There are probably some other ones I don't have listed. The next one is Prairie Moon, which is not local seed company, but that has the best plant database that I use most often. You should try not to buy plants seeds from there if you're planting in New England. It's not our eco zone, but the data here would be appropriate. For example, how many, the cold stratification information would be right. The when that seed blooms would be close enough. If it says June and July, it's about the same climate that we have, so it would be close enough, as opposed to a seed company from, say, Texas, when these plants have wide native ranges. So I think you can even get, like, for example, lobelias are down there, little blue stem is down there. But what they publish for when that lobelia blooms is not the same as when our lobelia blooms. It would be ours would bloom later, but the Minnesota would be about the right. All the information from that database would be transferable to here. These are macro pictures of what the seed looks like. So if you're confused, what's the shaft, what's the seed? A lot of our seeds are here, so you can see what the seed looks like. Before I distribute these seeds, this recording, I'll update this link. This is the same workshop last year, so I'll put the 2005 recording before I send these slides out. This is last year's winter sow. I'll do the same slides in December here in Shrewsbury. This is how to interpret the Dr. Jagir plant list. I think it's which is a bit confusing to beginner. There are a lot of sections to it. These are the top section. These are the nectar producing plants for the at-risk bees, pollen producing plant for the at-risk bees, and I think below that are pollen and nectar for other bees. And then here's another section for host plants. So I explain all about how to how to read his plant list. This is how to make the winter sow jugs, which you don't need to worry about because I'll provide all the jugs and seeds and soil that you need all for free at these workshops. And this is the shared file for all my native plant things, whether it's the seed collecting, slides, the spreadsheet for the details, seed labels that you can download and print yourself. They're all here. So that was a lot of information. I hope you got a lot out of it. It's I hope it's a very much a pay it forward uh, hobby. So I hope you've learned enough that you can get better at it, and then collect those seeds, share those seeds with your friends, and teach other people how to do this. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you at part 2 Winter Sow workshop in December.